Today we're going to be talking about version control, specifically introducing Git and GitHub. So the purpose of this video is to familiarize yourself with what Git and GitHub are, and then hopefully get you set up with the project. So I'm going to show you all the steps that you need. Hopefully this will clarify any questions you have after your lecture. I'd like to apologize for the background noise. There's construction outside of my apartment 7 days a week, so I can't really avoid this, but I'm hoping that if I talk loud enough, you can't really hear it. So life goes on. Version control tools are super important. We just want to kind of prepare for the unexpected. Not just that like, oh, my laptop broke or I lost access to this notebook because it corrupted somehow. Really for documenting the steps of our workflow as well. So there's this thing we use called Git. It is a version control system, and it works locally on your computer. And what it does is basically take snapshots of your work at various times. You have to tell it when to take the snapshots, but it will save those snapshots. GitHub is an open sourced cloud-based software that basically hosts Git repositories. And what I mean by a repository, you can kind of think of it as like a folder that contains all the files for a specific project. So I had a repository for my PhD thesis. I have repositories for different websites that I build. Any project that I do has its own repository, and I host it on GitHub. But the underlying version control is Git. So to begin on this lovely cloudy Vancouver day, I'm just going to show you what GitHub looks like. Okay, so this is GitHub. It's essentially we interact with it usually on a website. There's an app as well. You can have a profile. It's kind of cool. It shows you all the days you worked. You can tell when I went on Christmas break and when I got hired. So if you go to your profile, you have repositories, and they're all sort of listed here. You can have private repositories, so only you can see them, or you can have public ones. So this is public. What I have here is only one file. It's the Data Science 100 project notebook that you will be working on to submit your project. But other repositories can also have tons of files on them. Let me find one that would have a bunch. So this is another example of a repository that has a lot more files. This actually builds a little website. I have something called a README that's basically a description, and you can link things. It's really nice to have so the user kind of knows exactly what this repository is for. So yeah, you can think of a repository as a kind of folder of containing files related all to one project. Okay, so what are you going to do for your project? Well, basically you're going to follow the instructions here. So you're going to be filling out a Jupyter notebook, which is going to guide you through a data analysis. The analysis is mostly up to you. There's just a number of steps that you kind of have to hit. So we're going to focus on this to get started place. You will accept the assignment using a link that's going to go here. When you click that link, what it's going to do is create a repository with you that already has that Jupyter notebook in it. So similar to what I showed you before. Your repository is going to exist in this thing called a GitHub Classroom. And what that does is it allows you to have a private repository, but allows the instructors and all the TAs to have access to it. So that's really great. So once you click that link, basically what's going to happen is in that organization, you can bookmark that link. It will create a repository for you. That sort of looks like this, TBD. You can rename the repository if you want to. So you can just go to settings here. I did that a little fast. You can go to the settings up here when you open that repository. You can add a name and just click that rename button twice. Oh, I'm gonna have to rename it again. See, no problem. So just check to make sure if there are any instructions that we decide on that we want a specific name for your repository. Okay, so now let's go to Jupyter. And you're just going to open the same server that you use, oh my gosh, I must have been lecturing with this, when you work on your worksheets or your tutorials. So you're gonna launch this, and the important thing is that you're going to make sure that if you are working on anything inside of this project, you go to the very, very root of the folder. So I don't want to be in Data Science 100 Student. This is already its own GitHub repository. That's how we send you the worksheets and tutorials. I want to make sure that you're out here. Okay, so what we need to do, the first instructions on here say that we need to clone the GitHub repository from your GitHub classroom assignment into your Jupyter lab so that you can access it on Jupyter. And then I'm going to link this very video. What that means is I want this file, this repository, connected to Jupyter. So I'm going to clone it. Cloning it means I'm taking something from GitHub and I'm putting it on my local computer or a server like Jupyter Lab. It's actually quite easy. What we're going to do is click this green code button, and you're going to see this kind of URL that ends in .git. You're going to click this copy to clipboard button. Then we're going to go back, and again, making sure you're at that root folder, and you can just hit actually this button might do it. Yeah, you can hit that button, or you can go to Git and clone a repository. Either one, they're the same. You are going to paste in this copied link. And yeah, you're just going to clone it. And now you can see that you have your data science student with all of your worksheets and stuff. And then you have your project with that very Jupyter notebook that I was talking about. You can even view it on the GitHub one if you want to see what it looks like, just to make sure it's the right one. Yep, that's the same as what I have here. Now, when you're working through this guided kind of Jupyter notebook, there are a number of things that you have to fill out. So there's going to be cells that say edit this markdown cell or edit this text, this code cell, sorry, and you're basically just going to double click them to fill it in. So for example, I'm going to fill in my first and last name and that GitHub repository link. So that's literally just if I go to the GitHub repository, the URL, that will get me there. Yours will probably have github.com/datascience100 / something else. That's totally fine. And I can just put that right there. The next thing that I'm going to do is set my seed to my student number. I don't have one. And now I'm at my first checkpoint. So basically what these checkpoints are to make sure that you are using GitHub properly. So when I save this, which I should do after every sort of major task, it only exists on my local version of this notebook. So if I go back to GitHub and I look at this, I'm going to see that nothing has been filled out. So I don't have any of that filled out, okay? What I need to do is send a snapshot of this work to GitHub. And to do that, I need to stage, commit, and push the changes to GitHub. All of these are described in the lecture notes, but I'll quickly go over it. So I've saved this, and that means that changes were made. And I want to tell Git, hey, I want you to track these changes. So let's see what this looks like. I'm going to go to this Git pane, I guess we can call it. And I can see that this file was changed, but it's not in the staging area. I want to move it to the staging area. There's a couple ways to do this. You can use it in the terminal, or you can just click this plus button. Whoops, not that. That just shows you the differences. Say, all right, any files that I've changed, I'm going to put them into the staging area. That means I want you to track these files for the changes. The next thing I'm going to do are commit the changes. So tell Git, okay, I want you to save this snapshot. And I basically need to add a summary. I'm just going to call this checkpoint A. In description, I'm going to say I added my name, student number, and GitHub repository link. And once I click that commit button, then it's going to essentially say, all right, I'm going to take a snapshot of any staged files and save it. What I need to do is basically configure this for the first time. So I don't think you need to do this every single time, but definitely the first time. So you're going to put your name and the email that's associated with your GitHub account. Click OK. And the changes will have been. Do these changes exist on GitHub yet? Let's check. I'm just going to refresh this. No. So I have only locally saved that version of my notebook. I know it's a ton of steps, but the next one's relatively straightforward. All I need to do is say, okay, take these changes and put them on GitHub. And what that is, and I do my interpretive dance, is we push. We take things from our local computer and we push them onto GitHub. If something exists on GitHub that we want to bring into our local, we pull it. Push and pull. Jupyter Notebooks is pretty smart. It already has this little cloud with the up arrow. That's we're pushing it to the cloud, and it has that little orange dot. You can go Git push, or you can just click this cloud button. Now, when you push, and it might be every time, or at least every time you log in, you are going to need to set up your Git credentials. And this is the more annoying part. So you're going to put your GitHub username in, and you are going to get a personal access token. So this is not your password to GitHub, okay? You need to create a personal access token. So I will show you how to do that now. Let's go back to GitHub. Go back to our profile. And you're just going to click on your little face over here. My gosh, so many faces. You are going to go to settings, your global settings. Scroll all the way down to developer settings. What we need to do is create a personal access token. So you're going to do tokens classic. And I have a bunch of tokens that are already created, but I'm going to generate a new one specifically for this project. So you're going to click the generate new token button. You're going to do a classic token. I know, I don't know why they're opposite. I have to do the duo authentication. Don't worry, it doesn't make you log into CWL. Okay, I'm going to verify that. And I'm going to create a new personal access token. I'm going to call this, you can call it whatever you want. It's just a note for yourself to know what tokens for what project. So this is my data science 100 project in 2026. I'm going to set the expiration day for 3 months because, well, the term will be over by April 30th. And you are going to just click the following scopes: repo, workflow, write, delete, admin, user, delete repo. Yeah, a lot of these are kind of irrelevant, but these are the ones I usually, you definitely need repo, admin, and user. But I know these are at least enough. Okay, here is going to have a token. Big, long, messy password, you cannot change it. You need to copy this down because you will not be able to see it again. If you lose it, you can regenerate it, but that's super annoying. So click this little copy button, save it in a password manager, save it. This is really unsecure, but you could save it in the notes app for all I care. Just make sure you write this down. And yes, after this video, I'm going to delete this so nobody can hack me, so don't worry. Okay, copy that, go back to Jupyter Lab, paste your token in there. I'm gonna save my login just so it might save me some headaches later. Click OK, and you can see that it was successfully pushed. So now let's go check. Has our repository been updated? And how? Okay, this is the project that I was working on. Yours is, again, probably not on your profile, but in that GitHub Classroom, so you will go through it in there. What I immediately noticed is that I have a little message called checkpoint A. If you remember, that's what my title of my commit message was, and there's a little description when I hover over it. It was 4 minutes ago. And when I open this, scroll down, now I see my details being pulled in or being updated here. I know it seems complicated, but the nice thing is if you make a commit and then you mess up your project down the line, you're like, oh, I wish I could go back, you can. So my advice, commit often and push often. Okay, so the other thing that you can do is, honestly, if you just don't touch anything on the repository and only edit your files on Jupyter, you're basically just pushing. This is an individual project. It's very nice to work with. If you were to edit something on GitHub, for example, maybe I want to add a README, 2 hashtags to make a title. I'm just going to say Data Science 100 Project Demo. This is my project for Data Science 100. I can commit these changes, just click the green buttons and it will show up there. Where it doesn't show up is on my Jupyter. So I don't have any files called README here, but I can pull them in. I can click pull for remote. I'm taking them from the cloud, putting them into my local computer. I don't have to log in because I just logged in and I saved my credentials. And now I see that README file, which is super nice. I can edit this one as well. This line was written on Jupyter. Save that. Just save all my files. And again, when I go to that Git area, you can kind of ignore these untracked ones. They're just hidden files. I have that README that was changed. I can also change my notebook. Can save this one as well. Now they're both changed. I can stage both of them, commit them. They're not on here yet. I don't have either of those changed. I pushed them to GitHub, successfully pushed. And now when I refresh, I have that new line on my README. And I have that new comment that I made on Jupyter. Okay, so I think that's the basics of what you need to know for the project. We will provide you with the link to the GitHub Classroom. It's basically just going to make everyone's repositories in one place. All of the teachers are going to have access to it, and you're going to interact with it honestly the exact same way because you're still an owner of the repository. I know it seems overcomplicated, but GitHub is one of the most important skills that I learned a little bit too late in my career. So yeah, best of luck with the project. I hope you enjoy it and let me know if you need any help.